You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
Buckle your seatbelt. It's time for another episode of the Prepper Recon Podcast. I've been purchasing gold and silver from JM Bullion since before they were a show sponsor because they have the lowest price of any dealer I know of. JM Bullion now offers free shipping on all orders. Check them out online today at jmbullion.com. Our individual first aid kits are now on sale. They're MOLLE-compatible pouches in Coyote, ACU, OD, or Black. They're equipped with an Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, TK4 tourniquet, suture kit, and lots of extras. It's perfect for your car, bug-out bag, or home first aid kit. Go to the PrepperRecon.com homepage and click on the IFAC store tab at the top of the page. They're on sale for $89, and that includes shipping. This kit could save your life. Today's guest is Joel Edwards of the Working Man's Armory. Joel, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on, and I understand that you're a friend of Glenn Tate's. He's a big friend of the show. He's been on several times, so any friend of Glenn's is a friend of ours, so we're really glad to have you. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the Working Man's Armory and what inspired you to start that up?
Working Man's Armory is a small company. It's me and one other gentleman, and realistically, anything that comes out of our shop is hand built by me. We do 2 series of rifles. We do AR-15s and the Kalashnikov series. We really started with the Kalashnikov series. That's what got it up and running. I've been building rifles for several years for myself. To the point that I just had a ridiculous amount of AKs, not because I wanted a lot of guns, but because I became addicted to the build process. And that turned into me building rifles for friends and helping them build. And at some point, it just got to be ridiculous where I figured I should probably actually make a business out of this. And I did. Got into the AR-15 series of rifles, more to fund the AK side of the house, to do some research and some development on the AK side. And I was extremely familiar with the AR-15 series of rifles. I've been an instructor since 2005 for a local law enforcement agency and the lead armor for the department. And so I've got a lot of hands-on time, thousands of hours teaching it. And so it just naturally was a good addition to the company. And from there, it's just sort of slowly rolled into something that appears to be viable. And with the partnership that we're forging with Glenn Tate and the team, I think it's really gonna take off here in the next couple months. And
you say it's just you and one other guy, but isn't that how Apple started?
Yeah, that's
and their
hope.
stock's
Apple
like $600 now.
Yeah, Apple started in a garage. I started in a garage. I don't really need to be a billionaire. I have no illusions of that. I would like to stay a small company. I don't need a huge warehouse with a bunch of employees to manage. I enjoy doing the majority of the builds myself so that I can really maintain good quality control and really only put out items that I think are fit for everybody's consumption. I don't want to put out cheap stuff. I want to put out really high quality rifles at a price point that's probably a little bit lower than the rest of the guys who are building rifles of equal quality.
Yeah, and I think there was no Obamacare when Apple started, so it was probably a little easier to deal with employees back at that period.
Exactly. Employees right now seems to be just a real pain to have to deal with. So keeping it just to myself, it may limit the number of rifles I can put out, but it also completely cuts my overhead and allows me to concentrate more on the quality over the sheer quantity.
Yeah, and then if you're out in Glenn Tate's neck of the woods in Washington, the minimum wage is now $15 an hour in Seattle. So
Yeah, which
it
is
really gets tough,
absolutely,
and then you got to get them all health care.
yeah, that is absolutely amazing. I just can't see how small companies and even larger companies can afford to pay some guy $15 an hour to do, I mean, even mid-level jobs, at least around where I am, 15 to $20 an hour is pretty high pay. So all these guys who are making $9, $10, $11 an hour, I don't understand how companies in the future are going to be able to afford to pay that without obviously raising the prices on the rest of us.
Yeah, now they're making it in Seattle for making a double shot extra whip latte macchiato. So
Yeah, I noticed when we were out there with Glen Tate 2 weekends ago, and everything is expensive out there. I could not believe it. Coming from the Carolinas to the other side of the coast was a bit of a shock on how much the cost of living actually is higher than it is here. You kind of hear, oh, the cost of living, the cost of living. Well, it's serious. It's way higher out there.
And when did you first develop a appreciation for firearms?
My mom is a fairly liberal lady and did not want me to have guns when I was a kid. And I think by the time I was 3, I shot her with a carrot, and she figured at that point it was over. So I got my first BB gun when I was 7, and it just sort of evolved from there. I had a really enjoyable time as a kid shooting with my grandfather, just shooting a little single shot 22, I think something like a chipmunk style 22, and he'd take me out on his land and we'd shoot shotgun shells and just kept getting better and better. And once I actually learned to shoot, then the actual mechanics of the firearm really started to interest me, and I got into the AR-15s. It was just sort of like everybody in that AR-15 world does, and you buy a complete one, which leads to you want another one, so you build your next one, and you find out that the build is really fun. And then I really wanted more of a challenge, and I was reading about the AKs, and this was probably in the mid-2005, 2006, and read about everything that's required to build the AKs. And once I started building AKs, I really fell in love with the craft behind the actual build. It's not just snapping pieces together. There's a lot of work involved in building a quality AK.
So it all started with a carrot. Now,
it started with a carrot, yes, sir.
If you were to shoot your mom with a carrot now, I think that there's a good chance that you could probably end up getting the electric chair in some states. Well, I don't know. I think most of those states don't have capital punishment, but you could probably get 3 or 4 life sentences as a 3-year-old shooting your mom with the carrot. There was the little girl that threatened her classmate with a Hello Kitty bubble gun, and she was suspended or expelled. And then there was the kid that recently there was a kid that was twirling a pencil in class, and another student was offended by the way he was twirling his pencil, and I'm sure it was in a malicious fashion. And he was taken away from his father, and so I guess he's now a ward of the state. Department of Child and Family Services are now rearing him, so I'm sure he's going to turn out to be a very productive citizen. And then there was the kid that ate his Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun. And our governor in Florida, Rick Scott, just signed last month the Pop-Tart gun bill into law, which prohibits children in Florida from getting in trouble for eating their Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun or threatening another child with a Hello Kitty bubble gun. Did you ever think you would live in a country where a law like that would actually be necessary?
Well, 2 things. I don't know what's becoming of kids these days, that they're so violent that they have to shoot bubble guns at each other. That's just crazy. But creating a law to stem kids from getting expelled for doing what kids do is absolutely insane. It's not the law that it's insane. It's the fact that the law has to be written and passed that is insane. These are things. I'm not that old. 40 is not old. It was when I was 20. It's not now. But when I was growing up, none of those things would have even caused a stir at school. The Hello Kitty bubble gun would have been a huge hit at show and tell, I'm sure. And Pop-Tarts at lunch and shooting each other with Pop-Tarts and playing cops and robbers on the playground and using sticks as guns was absolutely normal, and we all grew up normal. Why this is suddenly an issue is it's just completely out of control.
It really is. Now, have you always been a fan of the AK, or was there a time before your conversion that you preferred the AR platform?
I think I got sort of brainwashed along with most of the shooting sports guys where, the ARK's or the AK's junk, it's inaccurate, it's only around because it's easy to produce and idiots can use it. And I sort of fell into that same mindset without even owning one. And I think that happens to a lot of people. But once I started building them and seeing the simplicity in design and yet the genius in the design as well, I really sort of grew fond of it. And I went to Afghanistan for about 2 years and contracted and worked with the Afghan National Police and the Afghan Border Police, and actually got a chance to see the AK series used in combat and get hands-on these rifles that had literally been in service since the 50s and were still running strong today. These weapons had not been cared for with the immaculate concerns that people in the United States take with their ARs. Our patrolmen would clean them with diesel fuel that they got from the back of the Humvees, and then get some oil out of the engine of their patrol pickup trucks to oil them with, and they still ran all the time. Missing stocks, broken sights, didn't matter. These things just ran all the time, and they served them really well. And so you really grow to appreciate the fact that you've got a weapon that you can beat it to hell and it'll come back and serve you as long as you want it to. And
it used to be that the AK wasn't, you couldn't really accessorize it like the AR-15. AR-15 is affectionately called the Barbie doll for men because you can kind of put all your different little fashion plates on it, and your lights and your backup sights and all of your quick release gadgets and infrared this, that, and the other, and cappuccino maker on the side and whatever else you want to put on there. But now, pretty much everything that's available for the AR is now available for AKs. They've got nice rail systems, and they've got the different types of stocks that you can get for an AR. Pretty much everything you can get for an AR is available for the AK now. Is that right?
Yeah, even in the past 2 years, we've seen a huge boom with the AKs, and I think it's fantastic. You've got some great guys out there really making some changes. You got Jim Fuller from Rifle Dynamics, who built a fantastic Sega conversion. You've got Mark Krebs, who's building some fantastic guns, and it's really designed a rail system that is functional. It meets the contours of the AK receiver, which was always a problem. And there's some really good work being done out there, and we hope to continue that work with what we're doing on the front end of the AK, as far as redesigning a barrel profile and actually replacing the entire front end of the AK so that you can mount any AR-15 style flash hider or muzzle device on an AK-74, or any AR-10 style muzzle device on an AK-47, with plenty of shoulder behind the muzzle device, so that you don't have to worry about stripping threads or instability. Barrels with the rifling concentric to the bore, so you can mount a suppressor without a problem. And I'm really hoping that that's where our rifles differ a little bit from everybody else's.
And then Another concern that was another big reason that people preferred the AR over the AK was the size of the round. The 7.62 by 39 round's a much larger, much heavier round than the 5.56 round. So if you're going into a combat situation, it's just going to weigh more if you're trying to carry 200 rounds of 7.62 as opposed to 200 rounds of 5.56. But now with the AK-74, that kind of takes care of that problem because it's got the smaller round. Is that similar to a 5.56 round? What would be the difference between what you would use with the AK-74 as opposed to 5.56 223 round?
It seems like a very similar round. Ballistics are fairly close from what I can tell, and from anecdotal evidence at the very least. The military surplus rounds coming out of Bulgaria and Russia, commonly known as the 7.6 rounds, actually have a better terminal performance than what we're using in the 5.56 round because there's a hollow cavity at the tip of the bullet in front of the lead that really bends the round when it impacts soft matter and causes it to tumble, which just leads to great wound cavities. So there isn't as much variety of loads as 5.56, but it's a heck of a cartridge. When I was in Afghanistan, it was a very revered rifle. Those guys that had AK-74s and had ammo for them were seen in a much higher respect than the normal guys with the AK-47s and the 30 caliber round.
And you build custom AK-47s, is that correct?
Yeah, we do customs. We're sort of backing off a little bit now on the kit builds, simply because I'm putting a lot more time into getting this prototype front end up and running. We took full auto AK-47 and a semi-auto AK-74 with my front end on it out to Glenn Tate and the team and let them really shoot it as much as they possibly could to get their impressions on it, and they absolutely loved it. It really changes the perception of the AK as an inaccurate firearm when you can put a modern, high quality barrel on there with quality rifling, a good nitrided finish, and take an AK-74 and shoot groups that are going to match that of a good AR-15, and the fact that we can use modern muzzle devices, muzzle brakes, suppressors, everything else without having to make drastic changes to the rifles really is an added benefit to that.
And then you're actually producing a sort of a Glenn Tate gun.
Yeah, we're doing a series of AR-15s based on the 299 series of books, and this was sort of a project that I'm not really sure who came up with, or if Glenn and I came up with it simultaneously. But what we'll be offering is a AR-15 rifle, a basic 16-inch railed carbine that is in a kit that's ready to go. All you need is ammo. So it'll come with the rifle, full rails, sights, aim point, red dot, flashlight, sling, 10 magazines, a copy of Glenn's book, and it's got the logo of the 17th Irregulars engraved on the left side of the mag well. So really somebody who's looking to get into shooting sports, wants a first AR-15 and doesn't really know what they want, we're giving you a package that the Glenn Tate and the team have tested and approved and helped with the design on, and it's something that you're going to be happy with right out of the box. I think that's especially helpful because, as you know, the learning curve with AR-15s and what you need and what you want and what actually is a good idea is fairly steep and can be kind of costly. So we're going to try and save you a little bit of money up front by giving you pretty much what you're going to need.
That's very, very cool. Now, I see that you have Magpul AK mags on your online store. Are you a diehard Magpul fan, and do you like their mags over metal magazines for ARs and AKs?
Magpul makes great product. There's no doubt about it. They've got some incredibly innovative stuff coming out. I'm not going to say I'm a hardcore Magpul fanboy. I use what works for me and what I think works for the rifle. I've carried Magpul PMags since they came out. I've had less problems with them than the aluminum mags. I've taught 68 or 70 patrol rifle courses with the police department I was with, and those are three-day courses. And we switched to PMags after, I think, the 5th course because we were burning through aluminum mags so quickly between the students dropping them and just them wearing out with that high rate of fire through them. And so we switched to PMags, and our problems were reduced drastically. Every once in a while we might get a cracked spine. As far as the AK mags, I still prefer military surplus mags. I haven't had any problems with the Magpul mags, but quite honestly, I probably only have 2,000 rounds through them. But I think once they come out with the steel reinforced locking lugs and feed lips on them, that they're going to compete with everything that's ever been produced.
And the gun and ammo market has finally started to normalize for the first time since Sandy Hook. Do you think the gun grabbers have given up, or is it only a matter of time before they find a new tragedy and try to nullify the Second Amendment?
I've got this theory that there's a set number of firearms and accessories that are going to be sold in any given time. And so when you spike that for several months, there's going to be a natural dip in it for several months. And I think the manufacturers did what any smart person would do during the little panic there, is they sold everything that they had because that's what businesses do to make money. And then they really ramped up production, hoping that the sales pace would keep up somewhat. Obviously it's not going to, because I think a lot of people spent most of their money there in about a 4 or 5 month span. And so prices are coming back down to where people will start buying again. Guns and ammo are not going to stop selling. And, unfortunately, if there's another tragedy, it's going to cause another spike. And who knows what that one will look like now that everybody's already seen one really bad one.
Now, speaking of gun grabbers, former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin just got 10 years for fraud and bribery. While he was never charged with his treasonous violations of the Second Amendment during Katrina, I guess we have to take what we can get.
Yeah, sometimes karma comes in and bites you on the rear rather than facing you to the front. And, I'll whatever it takes, or however it happens, I'm happy with it. As long as the end result ends up being the same. We all get what we deserve in the end.
That's right. Now, of course, we're going to have links to your website and today's show notes, but can you tell the folks listening on Stitcher and YouTube where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at www.workingmansarmory.com. Pretty simple. There's some photos of the rifles we've got out. It's a little bit out of date. I'm going to try and find some time here this weekend to get it updated. And it's also got a link to our online store, which has a good variety of products. And we're getting ready to sort of change our product line. We'll have our full rifles up and running here starting next week. We'll get the first couple leaking out, and it should just snowball from there. And
then folks can just call you up,
yeah,
basically tell you what they'd like to have. You can build it and you can ship it to their local firearms dealer. Is that right? Is that how that works?
That's exactly right. I actually do more custom builds than anything, and that's sort of what I like about the business, is that if you've got an idea that you want built, when you call Working Man's Armory, you get me. And I've had multiple customers that I've talked to on the phone and through email for a combined several hours, and got them exactly what they want. And they've been extremely happy with it. So that's really my joy, is working one-on-one with the customer to get them exactly what they want the first time around without having to send them something that they're not totally happy with, and then they spend more money trying to make it what they want to. Why not just get it right off the bat?
Well, Joe, thank you very much for taking time to come on the show. We sure appreciated talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time, and I enjoyed to listen to your podcast more often.
In American Reset, the final chapter of the economic collapse chronicles, the ultimate contest between liberty and tyranny reaches the apex. The Bear family and their neighbors learn the true value of community as they rely on each other to survive the war and the effects of the financial meltdown. Will the collapse bring an oppressive regime that enslaves the American people? Or will the patriots prevail and guide the country back to a place of freedom, peace, and prosperity? Get your copy of American Reset in Kindle, paperback, or audio edition at Amazon.com today.